Welcome back to What's Arty Noobs with General Disturbance. This is the M8A1, it's a Tier 4 American turreted tank destroyer. It's located on the north spawn of Lakeville under the command of BertholomaeusRexodus44x2 of the TLG clan. Now, which gun is he opted to have? Because there's 4 different guns, well, 3 actually if you think about it, but 4 technically you could put on the list. He's opted for the 57mm, which is not the top gun. The top gun is actually a 76mm 3-inch, and that's the one that was actually put into these vehicles when they were built by General Motors at the Cadillac plant. Now, it's capable of doing 75 alpha, and its penetration is 110mm, and you can see he's opted to go for the premium rounds straight away. He's got a half and half on each of those. The 75 hit points and 110, but quite a fast fire rate though. Standard rate is 2.4 seconds, and we can see here he's got it down to 2.34, so there's not much difference between the book and the actual at the moment. But then when you get down to these very fast fire rates, then a small difference can make a big difference when it comes to the amount of lead going down range. Well, it's not lead, it's steel, but anyway. So, what can I tell you about this vehicle whilst we're waiting for the action to start? Well, they made 1,778 of them, and they only built them between September 1942 and January of 1944. 110mm, it's a lot of pen at Tier 4. He was having difficulty, he actually hit the mantlet there, made it a bit difficult to get that one through, but he's found a weak spot on the mantlet of the Matilda, and he's going for the weak spot. You can see the driver area, and those shells are getting pens. Getting a few that are bouncing, but he won't have so much problem with a T6 medium. It's really the Matildas, because they're built pretty solidly. Even the Germans were impressed by the Matilda when they first saw them, because of course they have many of the characteristics of a KV-1. The actual name is not the M8A1 because they didn't build any M8A1s actually. Funnily enough, they were planning to, but they didn't. That T6 has decided to commit a major mistake, and he's gone back to the garage. Oh, we got hit by a Matilda, and he managed to work out where all this incredible fire was actually coming from. Yeah, this is much better. You're now using the bush mechanic, and you can shoot them without actually being seen. Yeah, the original name was actually the 75mm howitzer motor carriage M8, and they were actually classed as gun motor carriage or howitzer motor carriages instead of tank destroyers. So technically, they're an SPG, technically, but they were part of the TD branch. Now, originally, the idea was to provide a support vehicle for the troops. Oh, they've got one as well! And look how he's rushing through. He does have a top speed of 58 kilometers an hour, so he decided to utilize that and try and get as far south as he could. But he's come up against an M5 Stuart, which is basically the same vehicle in a hull, but he's got a much better gun. He's still pumping those rounds in. He's going to have a big bill when it comes to the shells, though. Oh, we've got a Matilda who's decided to make a run for it. And he's pumping those rounds in. He's got 2 kills so far. Can he get another one? Well, have you noticed how they're all trying to avoid this area and go to the corner where they can't be shot at? He's had to pull back because, yeah, the enemy did work out. Now, okay, now the enemy knows where all the problem's coming from. It's BertholomaeusRexodus, and they've got to take him out the game before they're all killed. He's got 4 kills now. He's making it kind of tough for them. He's got nearly 2 grand's worth of hit point damage on the enemy. And look, he's left a stream of dead tanks on the bottleneck. Well, going back to the talk, the fact is that they made this vehicle as a support vehicle for the troops, something where they could have a howitzer which could then knock down vehicles, emplacements, anything that was tough and difficult to take down. Now, they did try various other vehicles, and one of those was the T-18, which you now know in the vehicle, that's also a gun motor carriage. Never actually did produce. They did produce a prototype, as you can see in various photos of the thing, but they never went, no, you've got a T6 there, a dead T6, you killed him, you're responsible, you pay the fine. Okay, the fine is that you can't get at the other vehicles because they're all hiding behind the cliff. Oh, thank you very much. A Largo comes into view, and that thing's got thin armor, so we'll take that. And he gets another kill, and that's now 5. One more, and he gets his top gun. And look, he's got a target, an SU-76. He did get spotted, but he only left that guy with only 4 hit points. He wants that hit points. He wants the kill. Oh, you can see it's got a little dispersion at long range, but it's still very, very good. That's the last enemy. Can he get the kill shot to win the Top Gun? Yes, he does! The last second before his teammates almost got it, and he gets a Top Gun, probably a high caliber too. Well, it's always a bit of fun to take out one of the lower tier tanks and just have a ball, and he certainly did on this occasion. I don't think he expected to get the result he did, but that was a first ace tanker for BertholomaeusRexodus44x2. Now the thing is, he actually does have a lot of tanks in his garage, and you probably do as well, that you've never taken out for ages because you've moved on. You've gone up to tier 6, then tier 7, then tier 8, and you're probably already at tier 10, and there's a whole bunch of tier 3 and tier 4 tanks in your garage which you probably never taken them out and never got an ace tanker. In fact, I know for certain that Steve Walsh makes the point of actually going through all the tanks that he doesn't have an ace tanker in to try and get one whilst he's doing his streams, and that actually is very fun because you wouldn't believe the games that you will have with these tiny little tanks. Great game here for BertholomaeusRexodus. He really dominated that battlefield. That tiny little tank was controlling the pass, and if anything got through, it absolutely got hammered before it ended up getting killed by one of our teammates, or BertholomaeusRexodus got it instead. He also got a fire for effect in that game, as well as a high caliber for dealing the most damage in the game. And he got a Top Gun for getting 6 kills, the last one being the SU-76, the Chinese tank destroyer, which never existed. But he got him with a very accurate shot, just on the corner of the vehicle. That's all he could see, but he got him. And his win rate in that game, 12,372. So very decent score and a lot of fun. A very quick game, but a lot of fun. Let's have a look at the team score. Well, easily got the highest with 1,968. The next highest had, well, 800 less, or slightly less, well, about 800 less. It was the Lux who managed 1,196, followed by the Valentine anti-tank on his team, who got a Confederate on 1,143. I guess those guys were actually covering the town, but they got wiped out, those ones. When it came to kills, we can see that the highest number, yep, BertholomaeusRexodus again, he got 6 kills. 4 kills went to the A25 Harry Hopkins, and 2 kills went to the Lux on, well, actually, it should be the M8A1 on the enemy team. He got 3 kills before he got wiped out. And then we got 2 kills for the Lux on our team and the T6 medium on the enemy team. That was the one that blocked BertholomaeusRexodus at the end. He got killed on the bottleneck. Or was it the other one? We don't know. There was 2 T6 mediums in that game on the enemy team. But when it came to the base XP, yes, he's got that one too. And in fact, he's the only player to get over 1,000 base. He got 1,026, with the next highest one being the Lux with 796, followed by the A25 Harry Hopkins with 774. So he's got the top in all 3 columns. Now, 51 shots fired, and I'm afraid all of them were premium rounds. At least I think all of them were premium. He got 36 direct hits on the enemy and 29 penetrations. Yeah, with the ones that he actually didn't get the pen on, he actually hit the hard point on the armor of the enemy tank, which is that was the problem. Not that these things don't have a lot of pen. They do. if you hit the enemy tank in the right spot, they will go through. But he opted to have the premium APCR right from the start because he wanted as few as possible to fail to go through. And he did get a fairly large number there. He got 1,968 hit points of damage. And I think that was down to the fact that the enemy was aiming at all the tanks that were close to the bottleneck. And they weren't aiming at him. And he was the one doing all the damage in the game. And they were just ignoring him because he was way back behind the bushes. And occasionally they saw him because he was just a little too close to the bush. But most of the time, they just ignored him because they didn't think he was the one doing damage. And of course, the amount of damage he was actually doing per shot was relatively low because, as I said, it's the 57mm cannon, which is actually fairly low damage per shot, 75 hit points per shot. So yes, you'd ignore a shot like that. What you watch for is the shells which actually come in and do 110 hit points of damage, because you don't want to lose your tank in just 3 or 4 shots. And remember, this little thing only has 405 hit points of damage, so it wouldn't take many shots at 110 hit points to take you out. In fact, it would only be 4 shots and you'd be out the game. So he actually did most of the damage at long range. You can see there 1,544 hit points done at more than 300 meters. 2 hits received from the enemy. Both were penetrations, and yes, they were fired. I think one of them, at least one of them, was a Matilda, and I can't remember which one the other one was, but he did get hit twice. I think it may have been one of the T6 mediums actually who hit him, but yes, he did get hit twice. And of course, this thing has virtually no armor at all. At the front of the hull, it's only 28.6. The front of the turret, it's 38.1, and the same at the rear, actually. And although the figures actually in the wargaming in the game are actually different from the real figures that you actually find on the real vehicle. The reason being that the turret of the M8 was actually a cast turret. So it was unlike a lot of the turrets that had come before. They were actually now just starting to roll out all of the M3s all over the place, and the M4 was on the way, and they started experimenting with cast turrets, and they thought, yes, we'll put a cast turret on this thing. And that actually gave it a lot more armor because it was an open top turret, but it actually gave the crews a much better position. They could stick their heads out to look where the enemy was, although there was quite a bit of fire, and they did have periscopes as well. But it was actually a cast turret, that thing, and the armor on this vehicle is negligible. So most shells are going to go through. It would only stop tier 1 tanks really if it got into a dogfight with them. But really, ideally, you want to keep this thing behind cover. So he did the right thing in tactics wise to pick the back of the map and just keep spamming the enemy with as many rounds as you could. He also spotted 2 enemy vehicles, damaged 9 in the enemy, killed 6, and 422 hit points of damage assistance. He doesn't have a very good view range, by the way. That's why he only got 2 spotted in the game. He's only got 320 meters, so you need to extend that with some form of optics. On the premium account, he actually made a loss of 81,490 credits. Yeah, I told you he was spamming the gold as if it was going out of fashion. But he did get the reward for completing the mission and personal reserves as well. But the thing is that, yes, try to win the battle using this one with standard ammo, and you might have a lot of trouble with things like Matildas and G6 mediums trying to get through them. But if you use the premium ammo, you should be able to take them down. It's just a question of remembering to switch off the premium ammo and go back to the standard ammo after you've killed an enemy tank. He got 25 bonds for a mission achievement and 9,234 experience points out of that one. So yes, for a vehicle made by Cadillac, and that's who actually made it, and it had twin engines in the back, which actually gave it a bit of oomph, a bit of power. It's a gasoline engine. It actually was used in quite a few wars: World War II, the First Indochina War, the Laotian Civil War, so Laos, and Algeria as well. It was used by the French, and quite a few different nations actually bought them. And although the British had a thing about naming American tanks, because most of them came out the factory with just a designation, and this one obviously was a M8 or HMC M8. The as I said, the true name was 75mm howitzer motor carriage M8. That's if it's got the 75mm gun, or if it might have the M3 gun, which is the 76mm. Not much difference in the performance between the two. But the fact of the matter is that the British didn't name this one. This was one of the tanks that was actually named by the Americans. And the name was Scott, Winfield Scott, General Winfield Scott. It was one of the first ones the Americans actually named after a while. But I think most of the crews just called it the M8 anyway. And they stopped producing them in 1944, mainly because they had other vehicles which were actually taking over the job and the work that the M8 was actually carrying. So they didn't need these zippy little cars going around. In fact, they had Greyhounds, like the wheeled vehicles instead, which could rush around, and they had guns which could be used instead of the 3-inch howitzer. But the 3-inch howitzer is actually a very powerful gun. 76mm can do a lot of damage, and they could be used for a support role. And of course, it was a short barrel howitzer. But a lot of people in the game, when they get to the top, they take it to the 76mm. Although it's got a longer reload time, it does more damage. It's got quite a good bit of pen. But this was a fun game with the 57mm, because you just spam the shells as fast as you can fire. Every 2 seconds, another shot, and you end up with a battle like this. This one only lasted 5 minutes, 50 seconds. I've been waffling for longer than that. And, well, not completely waffling, but, you know, passing information that I have. But it is a fun little tank, and this is a good little game. And I'm glad that BertholomaeusRexodus sent it in, because you need a bit of a breather every now and then, you know, to play something else. Not that you don't like playing Arty, but it's just every now and then we all like to play something different, and this is different. Hope you enjoyed that replay. If you did, please give this video a like. Do subscribe to our channel. Leave a little comment down below, because it feeds the algorithm. And thank you for watching.